Hello, guys. I think maybe we can start, so not to be too late, while they still fix the micros for them. So we're very happy to be opening IACC here with you with the panel How to Snatch Back the Corruption Narrative from Political Agendas and Misinformation, a common concern for Brazilians, from people from Colombia, from Ecuador, and I think maybe all of the countries in the world. A concern that we reporters share, and also activists, as many of we also share. I'm Joanna Newblatt. I'm a journalist. I'm editorial coordinator at Transparency International Brazil. And previously to that, I was a reporter for over a decade for Brazilian mainstream media. And I have seen closely in the past years harassment campaigns, misinformation campaigns, judicial harassment, what we call now SLAP. And TI Brazil especially has been target of SLAP for the past few years. So to discuss the state of art, where we are now and where we should go from here, we have here Reinaldo Chaves, project coordinator at ABRAJI, which is the Brazilian Association of Investigative Journalism. We have Cláudia Baez from Cuestion Publica in Colombia. And we also have over there, and shortly they'll be here with us, Mônica Velázquez from La Posta in Ecuador, and Anderson Boscan, who's also an investigative journalist from Ecuador, and he'll help us a little bit with translation. Unfortunately, due to visa proceedings problems, we won't have with us Femi from Nigeria, but we'll try to share some of his points here with you today. So I'll just speak 2 more minutes and then I'll pass on to Claudia. But some time ago, I interviewed Timothy Snyder, an American professor from Yale University, when he was releasing his book on tyranny. And in that book, he shared 20 lessons from the 20th century that he thought we should all remember. And 3 of them, I think they are very interesting for this discussion today. Defend institutions. Learn from peers in other countries. And this one is special. Believe in truth. To abandon facts is to abandon freedom. If nothing is true, then no one can criticize power because there is no basis upon which to do so. If nothing is true, then all is spectacle. So with that, I'll pass to Claudia. Can we have, please, the first presentation? So we'll do like 15 minutes for each one, and then we'll open to questions and debate, okay?
Hi, good morning. It's nice to be here with you. So I'm Cláudia Baez. I'm a CEO and co-founder of Cuestion Publica. We are an investigative media outlet based in Colombia. We are covering corruption, abuse of power, and human rights violations in Colombia. We are a young team, around 18 people. The average age between us is 25 years old. So we are doing investigative journalism in a such innovative way that we can reach young audiences, because we know that the young audiences is that can make a difference in decision making and democracy. So that's why we try to democratize investigative journalism in a way that reach other audiences that the traditional ones. The challenge for us, it's Colombia has a media concentration, around 5 economic groups are owners of the mainstream media in Colombia. So that's why Cuestion Publica was born, to give a new opportunity to the citizens, Colombian citizens, to really be informed by independent journalism. The other thing in challenge is the mainstream media has low credibility right now. Around 77% of people in Colombia don't trust mainstream media. That's an opportunity for us. And another challenge is the press freedom under attack. We are in a violent country. After peace processes, in 2016. Many things have changed in Colombia, have changed, but we still with a lot of judicial, legal harassment for journalists. In the past year and a half, 3 journalists were killed in small towns or in the north of the country and in the south, because there are a lot of organized criminal organization that are taking control of the territories in the north and in the south. So the press freedom is under attack, and it's not easy to do investigative journalism in small towns with political powers controlling the territory. Cuestion Publica has, we have an impact in our country. It's impact journalism. 13 Cuestion Publica investigations have led to the judicial, criminal, administrative, or sanctioning processes in national and foreign controlled bodies, such Attorney General Office, Prosecutor Office, Supreme Court, and even the DEA, Drug Enforcement Administration. Our investigations have been included in bills at the Congress, and also through our legal access to information work, we help to promote transparency laws in Colombia. Another impact is that, for example, we have been victim of legal harassment for politicians in Colombia. For example, the former president of the Senate sued Cuestion Publica's co-founder, myself, and the prosecutor offices because of our investigation of Congress member assets. Another impact that we have is our revelations have been discussed in presidential elections, debates during election periods. We provide, the last one is one of the, I really think is a huge impact for us, is we provide evidence in the main case of former president of Colombia, Álvaro Uribe. He is in a judicial, a legal case right now, and one of our investigations was included in the case because they debate at thesis of the prosecutor office. I'm going to explain a few examples of what kind of impact we have made in Colombia. For example, in the ABRAJI case, that maybe he is going to explain better than me because it's about a Brazilian company, huge Brazilian company, and it's a corruption scandal, the biggest corruption scandal in Latin America. So we demonstrate how the main economic group in Colombia, Grupo Aval, that's the name, was business partner of this corrupted Brazilian company, and they always allegated that they were victim of the Brazilian company, that they don't have to do anything with bribers or things that they do. But we demonstrate that in a board unit, they changed it, a board unit at the high executive of this economic group in Colombia, agreed with the ABRAJI company to change this board unit to legalize irregular contracts to pay bribes. So this is one of our investigation that opened a case in the procurator office in Colombia. Another one, it's that I mentioned before. It's we publish evidence in the main case of former President Álvaro Uribe. So this evidence contradicted a key thesis of the prosecutor office in the judicial case, and it was included in the legal case. This is one of my favorites. It's Where is my patient? So we reveal the conflict of interest. In Colombia, we have private and public system. It's a mixed system. So most of the Colombian, like 18 millions of Colombians, put their money in the private system. And the private system is ruled by two huge economical powers. These powers are owners of media, are owners of industry, agro-industry, alimentary, of that. But they put the money of the Colombian in the stock market to finance their own companies. So even if the stock market for that companies are high or low, they don't mind. They just put the money of Colombian there. Even if these companies have problems with environmental problems or corruption scandals, the citizens don't know that the money are going to these questioning companies. And they didn't know about the conflict of interest of that these companies took their money to finance themselves. So this investigation, Where is My Patient, was included in a bill at the Congress in Colombia to change the system. And right now there is a new reform, pensional reform in Colombia that was just approved. But this is one investigation that helps to citizens to take better decisions and to know what are the powers behind, the interest behind the economic powers, because this is a lot of money. And this is one of the impact. If your investigation can go to the Congress and change policies, that is important. This is, we know what you did last legislative period. It's the first investigation to the Colombian Congress member assets, businesses, network, and wealth. So we asked to citizens to tell us what Congress member they wanted that we investigate. And they choose in a public survey the Congress member that we investigated. So this investigation, we use like 300, we sent 300 FOIA, requests for information, to the Congress to obtain that information that at that time, in 2018, 2019, it wasn't public for the citizens. But thanks to our work in the legal request for access for information, there is a law right now in Colombia, set that in 2019, that allow people, citizens, to ask to the Senate, to the Congress members, to know what is their wealth. I mean, what is the conflict of interest that they have and their wealth. And this is a public document that any citizen in Colombia can join and see. And this is one of the impact of We Know What You Did last legislative period, promote transparency law. For this investigation, the former president of the Colombian Senate sued me and my business partner in the prosecutor office. And this is a legal strategy that they have. Even if the investigation is well done and is perfect, that there is no things that you can question it, they wanted to open this suit to us just to the way that they can, exactly, harassment, the way that they can say. But when somebody asks for this investigation to him, saying, okay, but you have an investigation because you have links with the narcos or something like that, they say, oh, I sued that investigation. It's in the prosecutor office. It's a way to defend themselves, even if the investigation is perfect. This is a Colombian protest, 2021. There was a national strike in Colombia, a huge one. Many protesters were killed by the police on the streets during 2 months. And there is the first protester that was assassinated was a young guy of 17 years old. and we reported this killed, his death, and we really follow all the case, and the policeman that was accused of the assassination of this guy right now is in detention, because we follow the case and all what happened in the protester scene. And this is another thing that we do. Don't only report it for the day or for the moment on the current event, but also make step by step follow what happened after that. We have even an investigation in the DEA because in 2022 for the presidential election, the former presidential candidate, we investigate the wealth of this man, and he's involved in a corruption scandal when he was a mayor in a middle city in Colombia, and his wife purchased a real estate property in the US between he was mayor in the middle of this corruption scandal. So the DIA took our investigation and opened a case in the United States.
Claudia, not too sure, but...
Okay, I don't know if we can put the video. It's like 5 seconds.
Okay, no,
it's okay.
No, go on.
See?
Yeah.
But it's not working. Okay. So this is just to tell you.
I think you try to get it working.
This is our newest investigation regarding the mafia's shipping lines. I mean, how the Colombia's mafias use the biggest shipping lines in the world and in the sea to put drugs and use the routes, the lines that they have to come to Europe, and how they has in a gray zone between legal and illegal, and this is our newest, but it's not working. So, thank you so much. That's me.
Thank you, Claudia. So I'll pass directly to Monica and Anderson together.
Okay. Yes. Bueno.
Just for you to know, para que sepan, en los 15 minutos van a estar.
Ok, perfecto. Bueno, antes que nada, muchísimas gracias por la invitación, por darme la oportunidad de estar acá para contar mi historia, mi caso. Mi nombre es Mónica Velázquez Villasís, periodista de investigación de un medio nativo digital llamado La Posta.
I will try to help with the translation. My name is Mónica Velázquez, and I am a journalist for a digital media outlet named La Posta in Ecuador.
La Posta.
We're not seeing the. Yeah.
There is it.
La Posta es un medio digital que levanta normalmente dos pasiones, amor y odio. Es especializado en investigar corrupción política, narcotráfico y crimen organizado.
At La Posta we say you will have two sentiments when thinking about this independent media. You love it, you hate it, and we are specialized in investigating public corruption and organized crime.
El caso El Gran Padrino nos muestra cómo el periodismo independiente puede revelar grandes casos de corrupción y crimen organizado y también con vínculos con el narcotráfico.
This is our last case, the El Gran Padrino, which can be translated as the Great Good Father. It is a proof of how independent journalism can reveal the links between public service, public corruption, and narco-trafficking.
Okay.
So when talking about this case, this began in 2022. This is a whole year-round investigation made out with our team, where we were following public contracts from public companies that were looking suspicious. And when following the money, we got noticed that the contractors in the private sector were some guys linked to international cartels in mafias. The investigation was precisely looking for the connection of the sitting president brother-in-law, whose name was Danilo Carrera. It was a powerful man, a banker, one of the richest men in Ecuador. And when his brother-in-law sit in the presidency of Ecuador, he started to use his influence to get contracts for their friends and in her inner circle. And this was an investigation specifically about public corruption, trying to look out how the presidential family was using their influence in favor of their friends.
Así es. Lo grave de este caso es la vinculación de la mafia albanesa con el gobierno de Guillermo Lasso y su cuñado.
But what really worries, or what is really important in this case, was not the public corruption only, but the journalism was capable of discovering the connection between our authorities and the Albanian mafia working or operating in Ecuador.
La justicia ecuatoriana encubrió un caso, un informe antinarcóticos, esto con complicidad de la Policía Nacional, de la justicia ecuatoriana y también del gobierno nacional.
Our justice system just covered a narco-trafficking case investigation which was investigated by national police. And just to complement what Monica was saying, this was a policial investigation that found how the presidential family was linked to an international drug cartel. And when they do that, they do receive an order to close the investigation to do not affect the presidential family. So what this journalistic investigation made was to discover how the whole system, the police, the prosecution's office, and the presidential office were working to cover the relations of politics and politicians with mafia.
También lo grave es que en este caso han asesinado a varias personas. Asesinaron a Rubén Cherres, un testigo clave de este caso de investigación. Dentro del celular de Rubén Cherres, de esta persona vinculada con la mafia albanesa, encontraron seguimientos que le hacían a periodistas de investigación, que es el caso de nosotros, donde hacían seguimientos a nuestra familia, fotos de nuestras hijas, que salían del colegio e incluso recomendaciones donde asesinarnos, lugar, hora.
When talking about this case, one of the main points on how corrupt is the system, it can be found in the death of Rubén Cherres. Rubén Cherres Fayoni was the key witness of the case, the person who can vinculate the politicians with the mafia. It was the connection between two worlds. And he was murdered after a few weeks after the publication in circumstances that are not being investigated in Ecuador. And the police found his cell phone, and in his cell phone they found a lot of pictures of followings to independent journalists, specifically to Monica's family, which is me because I'm her husband. But they found pictures of our whole family, our newsroom, our journalists, our doctors, and a whole inform on how to assassinate us.
Esto nos demuestra lo tan contaminada que están los agentes de control que deberían darnos protección a nosotros los periodistas, y sin embargo la misma Policía Nacional pasaba informes y reportes de estos seguimientos a la mafia albanesa para cometer el asesinato de nuestra familia. Además, esta información tenía las autoridades ecuatorianas, en este caso la Fiscalía General del Estado, y sin embargo tuvieron conocimiento aproximadamente 6 meses y no nos avisaron a nosotros los periodistas para tomar medidas de precaución.
This shows you how the corruption can, it's like a metastasis, because you can find it in police, in the political offices, and the judiciary system, all working together, not only to cover crimes, but to cover a plan to assassinate journalists. They do have information from all our movements, not because they were following us, but because the police was doing the work. So they do have official papers with the police seal that are now under a formal investigation to determine the circumstances they were made and why do they have it. But what Monica is worried about is how the whole system is working, not to protect journalists, but to go after them. So the impact of this investigation, it was a huge scandal, a huge political scandal in a tiny country. For the first time in 200 years, a sitting president went to a political impeachment, and he needed to dissolve the National Assembly in order to avoid a destitution for the charges, the political charges against him. Ecuador went to early elections, general elections, to elect another president and another National Assembly, and 8 criminal investigations were opened in the judiciary system as a consequence of our work.
Este proyecto se hizo con la revisión de más de 35.000 documentos, 12 periodistas y también productores. También revisamos, aproximadamente trabajamos 12 meses de investigación.
We were working on this project for a whole year. We reviewed over 35,000 documents and public records and emails and contracts in order to tell this whole story. It was a team of 2 journalists and producers, and it took us 6 months of publications and 125 off the record interviews that are part of the experience and the publications.
Normalmente los habitantes de Ecuador son 18 millones de personas, y a nosotros en este caso nos vieron 3 millones de personas mensualmente.
Okay, the Ecuador's whole population is 18 million, and this investigation was followed by 3 million people in a country of 18 million inhabitants. So you can size the impact it has in the normal conversations of everyday people.
En ese trabajo de periodismo no solamente encontramos corrupción política y vinculaciones con la mafia albanesa, con el narcotráfico, sino que también toda la documentación que nosotros logramos recopilar también tenía vinculaciones con la pedofilia.
We were not only following a case where politicians were making political corruption and having relationships with narco-trafficking and organized crime, but there is one of the investigations that were open, it has to be with pedophilia, and that's...
Bueno, esta información también fue comunicada a las autoridades para que ellos realicen la investigación pertinente.
The judiciary authorities are looking up for this story. what we face as journalists. Ecuador is a very violent country to be a journalist. It's one of the worst countries on Americas for being a journalist after Mexico, probably. Just in the last 12 months, 10 journalists have gone to exile because there are no warranties to do what we do in our country. We confront disinformation campaigns funded with public money. The usual response to any investigation is to, we name it troll centers, and the politicians use these campaigns, paying with public funds, to go after the prestige and the credibility of journalists, accusing them of having nexus with the organized crime, or being corrupt, or receiving bribes. And they invent whole stories against the journalists that are investigating. We do receive death threats, usually weekly, illegal surveillance, and fabricated investigations. As a team, we have been confronting two civil lawsuits for over $1 million, in that put a lot of pressure in our newsroom, because we have to find lawyers to fight against one of the richest men in Ecuador, who is suing us. And we do have 3 criminal investigations that are related to, and this is a true story, they are related to a TikTok that says we are receiving bribes in fiscal paradise and Luxembourg, in Panama, and I don't know where more. But we do face 3 criminal investigations for this case. And we do not receive any protection from the state as journalists, not only us, but every journalist in Ecuador. You have to pay for your own security, you have to take your own risk when covering a story. We are protected witness of the state officially. We have been there for 4 years now. But they do only send you a police to your home to see if you are okay and if you are alive.
Sí, en ese punto es importante mencionar que el expresidente Guillermo Lasso utilizó recursos del Estado para atacar a periodistas. En el caso del Gran Padrino, me atacó a mí por el hecho de ser mujer, por el hecho de hacer investigación del crimen organizado, porque supuestamente para él, para su criterio, las mujeres no podemos hacer ese tipo de trabajo.
These are not the only threats we face as journalists, but Monica liked to highlight the use of public funds by the government of Guillermo Lasso, who made a special presidential message in prime time just to attack her for being a woman and going to investigate organized crime. And he does suggest that she has links with the organized crime for investigate them. And it was the official response to the investigation.
La presión fue tal que incluso secuestraron a las familias, a ciertas familias de personas que estaban siendo investigadas.
It has been so violent, this case, that it was reported that some of the investigated families, or the families of some of the investigated men, were kidnapped in order to impedir
To stop.
in order to stop or do not allow them to tell the whole story on the judicial system.
Esto causó una remesón política en Ecuador que tuvieron que llamar a elecciones anticipadas. Por eso ahora está el presidente Daniel Noboa.
The consequences of this investigation led the political environment to call a general election, anticipated general election. That's the reason why do we have Daniel Noboa today as a president.
También una docena de funcionarios públicos que están siendo investigados, otros procesados.
Almost 12 high-rank officials are being under investigation today because of this work, and some of them are officially being accused by the prosecutor.
El cuñado del expresidente Guillermo Lasso también se encuentra con arresto domiciliario por encontrar vinculación con el narcotráfico y también con delitos como tráfico de influencias.
The brother-in-law of former President Guillermo Lasso is actually under imprisonment in his house, in his home, and he's been investigating for trafficking influences.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll pass on to Reinaldo here, talk a little bit about Brazil, and then we'll go to the questions, okay? Can we have, please, the last presentation? But you can go if you want.
Can you hear me?
Sí.
Well, guys, thank you very much for your presence, and thank you to my colleagues. So I will talk a little bit about the Brazilian scenario, and unfortunately, it's very similar to Colombia and Ecuador and in many countries with a huge polarization around the world. So I'm Reinaldo, project coordinator at ABRAJI, Brazilian Association of Investigative Journalism. And ABRAJI is an NGO with 20 years of experience working to encourage the improvement of investigative journalism, combating disinformation, and projects to support journalists who suffer some kind of attack. In recent years in Brazil, several investigative journalists who expose corruption have been persecuted. And it is even worse with women journalists, like Monica said. In this case, the women journalists also suffer misogynist attacks. In these on-screen cases, for example, we have Patrícia Campos Melo, Juliana Dalpiva, and Daniela Lima. They have suffered thousands of attacks on the internet in recent years, with insults and accusations.
Even from the president himself.
Even from the president.
Yeah.
The first case, for example, in 2018 elections, Patrícia revealed a major scheme to send disinformation and hate messages to million WhatsApp users in Brazil. At the time, one of the people under investigation for this case, in a public session in the Chamber of Deputies, made misogynistic insults against Patrícia. And soon afterwards, several politicians replicated these attacks on their social media, including the son of President Bolsonaro. The other case is Juliana's case. She revealed that Bolsonaro family's assets are of illegal origin or the source of the money is undeclared. After that, the Bolsonaro family's lawyer sent her messages with a death threat. And Daniela has had a career reporting on dozens of powerful politicians and businessmen. And in this on-screen case, she says that she has also been attacked or threatened or even assaulted by left-wing politicians. In other words, journalists who work on corruption investigations are tagged of power, both right or left. So the theme of this panel, the hijacking of the anti-corruption narrative, what we have seen in our countries in recent years and in many parts of the world is a hijacking of the anti-corruption theme by populist political leaders to create actions of misinformation and disinformation. These campaigns often involve the release of misleading or false information to manipulate public perception and influence political outcomes. Corruption-related disinformation can be particularly potent as it can erode trust in political institutions, undermine the legitimacy of elections, and amplify existing divisions within society. Our recent elections in Brazil, we can see a lot of these cases of misinformation using as a tactic, a political tactic. And of course, journalists and activists, I think we are sadly one of the most important targets of this because we are exposing the genuine corruption, and this can be, and for this we can become targets. False narratives are crafted to discredit these individuals, undermine their credibility, and cast doubt on their investigative work. This not only protects the corrupt entities being exposed, but also discourages other journalists and activists from pursuing similar investigations. And this is a little bit about the Operation Kawash. Sadly, again about ABRAJI case. I think. Sadly, it was a huge case. Someone say it's the biggest case of corruption in the world. And for example, in 2014 in Brazil, the Operation Kawash began, in which the public prosecutor's office and judges began to uncover a huge corruption scheme involving hundreds of politicians and big businessmen in construction, but also in oil extraction and the other sectors, with the payment of millions of dollars in bribes to win bids for public spending as election campaign donations. And at the time, politicians in power denied these corruption cases, accused the opposition of persecution, and also accused that journalists were publishing lies or being influenced by means to remove the left from the power. And years later, other investigative media outlets, such as The Intercept Brazil, showed the errors of the Operation Kawash, such as judges and prosecutors who committed excess. And then the right-wing power also attacked journalists with accusations of lying, and also receiving bribes to publish this information. The situation took advantage of and stimulated the scenario of great polarization that Brazil is experiencing in the recent years, spreading countless of messages of disinformation. But it's worth mentioning that Brazil has also some other serious cases about showing the corruption. These threats have included doxing, where journalists' phone numbers or addresses are made public, like in Ecuador, to stimulate personal attacks, and even murders, such as the case of British journalist Don Phillips and the Brazilian indigenist Bruno Pereira, who were killed in 2022 while investigating the illegal extractions of resources in the Amazon. So, in regions far from the major cities, on the border or dominated by organized crime, exposing the local corruption is much more dangerous. In this case, there is not even a disinformation campaign against journalists, but violence itself. For example, since 2003, Brazil has seen 42 journalists killed.
2003.
2003.
Okay.
And also we have problems about, also we have in ABRAJI a monitoring of attacks on journalists, a report that ABRAJI produces annually. For example, since 2019, there has been an upward trend in number of violations. In 2023, the report records more 300 episodes, a small fall. But in the case divided by Brazilian states, some continue to have high numbers of attacks. And the only intimations, the type of attacks in order of predominance in Brazil, it's stigmatizing discourse, aggressions and attacks, civil and criminal proceedings, restrictions on the internet, restrictions to access information, sexual violence, abusive use of state power, arbitrary detention, and murder.
Just interesting to see 2021 and 2022 were Jair Bolsonaro's government, and he himself attacked journalists. So the impact that the government in place attacking journalists has on attacks to journalists.
And these report are available with this link. And of course, like other countries, we also have SLAPs, judicial harassment. This year, for example, ABRAJI counted more than 600 lawsuits in Brazil since 2019. To mention the most important types of judicial harassment in Brazil, we have cases of journalists victims of serial cases. For example, usually lawsuits were filed in small claims civil courts in remote towns, and sometimes we have more than 100 lawsuits against one journalist alone.
In different cities.
In different cities.
Yeah.
Also, we have cases of contentious plaintiff, a single plaintiff filing multiple lawsuits against different defendants, typically journalists or media outlets. It's a common type of lawsuits sued by businessmen in Brazil. Also, we have lawsuits asking for excessive claims for compensation, asking thousands or even millions of dollars. Cases also of censorship and the use of the criminal system in some lawsuits. For example, asking also the prison of these journalists in Brazil. And so I think we are trying to create solutions in Brazil and the other countries. And for example, we think strengthening the collaborative fact-checking networks and trained journalists it's very important. And the ABRAJI has a collaborative project about this with 42 media outlets doing fact-checking the entire year. Also, we collect, study, and disseminate cases of attacks against journalists to do advocacy. For example, last month, a lawsuit filed by ABRAJI in the Brazilian Supreme Court recognized the practice of judicial harassment as a way to curb the work of the press. This made it illegal to use certain legal devices to sue journalists in serial cases. Also, we have projects about provide legal advice and call protections for journalists, doing partnerships with lawyers in Brazil. And of course, we have follow up on cases of murdered journalists, asking for justice, and even doing the investigations or collaborate with investigations of these journalists dead. And we offer physical and digital security trainings, and we have projects to collect and disseminate public interest data to not to produce content, but to help other journalists doing investigative work in Brazil. So this is, thank you very much.
Good, thank you, Reinaldo. So I get to do the first question, and then I'll pass to you if you have other questions. Reinaldo already advanced what I was going to ask you, which is, if we think about solutions, what did you, as journalists in your investigations, you thought it missed of possibilities to protect journalists, or, I don't know, other resources possible to protect the work of journalists and to advance investigations? What could a civil society organization or a state, a government, put in place to help journalists to do their work?
I think the most important is that audience, community, citizens really understand the impact of our investigation to make decisions in democracy. And also, I think social organization, civil social organization, can be the bridge between journalism and authorities. I mean, because the citizens always ask to us, to investigative journalists, you reveal everything, all this information is up, and nothing happens. Why? So it's too much corruption, too much abuse of power, too much, and we know all this is happening, but nothing changed. Why? So that is the best, the main thing that citizens ask to investigative journalists, and it's not to us to make the investigation in the legal way. It's the authorities, bodies, in the institutions, in the state that have to do it. So maybe if the citizen ask and demand that results to the authorities, that's the main point. I think civil society organizations can be the bridge between citizens and social civility and states and authorities to make transforming reality. I think that's one of the points.
Okay, good.
Also, ABRAJI has some ad campaigns. Sometimes, I think, 4 times per year, only to show how investigative work works. Because many people around the world, and it's the worst with the social media era, don't know how investigative journalist works, and for us it's very important sometimes creates some ads only to show how a journalist works.
En el caso de Ecuador, yo creo quizás comunicar nuestras investigaciones a organizaciones internacionales para que también conozcan los riesgos y los trabajos que estamos realizando. Porque en el caso, por ejemplo, de nuestra investigación, se encuentra el país tan polarizado, donde hay una campaña de desinformación. En el caso del Gran Padrino, un banquero que tenía todos los recursos económicos, recurso judicial, contaminadas las instituciones del Estado. Empezaron con esta campaña de intentar cambiar la cara de la moneda y hacer creer que los periodistas son los que tienen relación con el narcotráfico o son los que son corruptos, porque lo hacen en campaña en una cadena nacional. Perdón.
Okay, Monica is talking about how important it is to communicate the investigations abroad, out of the country, outside the country. Specifically speaking about Ecuador, it is a so polarized country where we are investigating people that has powers all the way. They do have influence in the judiciary system. They do have the politician system. They do have the police in their favor. They do have the banks in their favor. And this is all the same person. So when fighting against a so big power inside a country, you will need help outside, and you will need to communicate better to international organizations.
Y lastimosamente existen fundaciones que protegen a periodistas, pero que también han trabajado con gobiernos anteriores y que tienen intereses políticos. Entonces no existe una real protección a periodistas.
Unfortunately, in Ecuador, we do have NGOs and organizations that are not only sponsored by, but working with those who are in power and those who are supposed to be protected are alone. I mean, we do have NGOs working for the bankers and working for the economic power, but not for the ones that are supposed to be protected.
Good. Do we have questions from the audience? Bruno, maybe? Sorry, it's my boss. He always have many questions. So. No? Okay, so I have another one here. I thought it was very interesting you saying that you work with young journalists, so it's easier to communicate to young audiences. Because what we have seen in Brazil, and one of the journalists in Brazil, Patricia Melo Campos, who Reinaldo mentioned, she was attacked by the president himself because she had revealed a scheme, an important scheme in the elections. And she, in her book, she mentioned that only 8% of Brazilian population reads newspapers. And like 70% receives information through groups of WhatsApp or family. And they tend to believe in information that reaches them through family and friends. So, but many times they're not information, true information, good quality information. So I thought it was interesting you saying that you work with young journalists and then you can reach young readers and you can try to, I don't know, to bypass this kind of problem we have here. And I'll also go to you saying, I was impressed that in a country of 18 million people, you reach with your investigation 3 million people. How did you manage to do that? So I think maybe you two could comment on this point.
Yes, I think when Cuestion Publica was born in 2018, we aimed to do sexy investigative journalism in a sexy way, because investigative journalism is from a niche. It's specific people that are really interested in how the power moves and how it works and the interest behind it. And we tried to go far from the niche, for the traditional community of investigative journalism. And the name of our investigation are sexy, like we know what you did last legislative period, or Game of Votes, similar to Game of Thrones. We create a huge digital universe, recreating how the political families in Colombia control the territories with power and money in the north, south, and east of the country. And the narrative that we use is mix pop culture with investigative journalism in a way that young audiences can engage with us and appropriate this information and think about it for the decision that they are going to make it. So one thing that I back into the previous question that you asked, there is transparency laws are so important because they are the tools for citizens and for institutions. I mean, for the whole ecosystem. So I think investigative journalism can help to promote that transparency laws, public policy. I mean, we are providing such worth information to the society that is important that information reach the most people possible. But we are small media outlets. We don't have that opportunity to massive reach this audience that need this information. The only way that we can reach it is when the mainstream media look at us and say, okay, this is a good information, I will republish this. But they have already their interests. I mean, they take the information that they want, okay? So maybe I think that technology right now, AI, for example, for instance, AI can really help media outlets like La Posta and Cuestion Publica to reach that audience in a better way and scale our engagement and our enrichment in a different way. And that is going to change the system. I think that's going to happen.
Okay, good.
About the artificial intelligence, I think it's important. It's important to journalists and activists. Is important for everyone, of course, because this theme about corruption. For example, in Brazil, we have some case of deep fakes and websites, false websites created with AI. Very fast, and it's incredible the quality of these pieces. And I think it's very important activists and journalists realize this and create, for example, trainings to look up these cases. For example, we have trainings how to use OSINT techniques to review that is a false information, a false video, a false website. I think regarding these issues about technology, young generations, sadly, I think in the next years, in this year, we will have thousands, millions of pieces of false information created by AI, and they are a huge menace for us.
That's true.
I do completely agree with Claudia and about the way to create content that reach audiences, and specifically La Posta has as a slogan. It says the news but sexier.
Yeah,
it's the news but sexier, the sexy ones. Because we do believe that our job as a journalist is not to tell a story. It's not only to tell a story, but to find an audience that is interested in the story. To make an impact, you need to convince people that what you are telling is important. And to do that, you need to explain them what do they need to care and to pay attention, how do they are affected by. And it is about the way you communicate. So I think when speaking about investigative journalism, we do have to abandon the traditional way to deliver information that is specifically and only focused in accuracy, that is important, facts that are important, but we do have to take a look about how this accuracy, this reporting, and these facts are going to be shown to the audience. So giving a name that is related to their own personal lives, or giving a theatrical way to expose the content, or making near to Instagram, X, and Facebook habits. And the language is so important that because if you don't do it this way, you can just waste your time and your effort, and the public opinion will lose an opportunity to make a change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good. Yes, please. Do we have a microphone for the question? Sorry. Yes.
Hello, thanks to everyone. I'm François Esquerra from Animal Político in Mexico. So yesterday it was published a digital news report from Reuters Institute, And we see that over the last couple of years, trust in media has been slowly decreasing in the region in Latin America. And at the same time, in Mexico, we are seeing that there is a powerful narrative from the government against like official facts, proven things, and like these people in power creates another narrative, maybe not corroborated with facts, and this is like very popular on media. This is very popular on Facebook, and like these places where many people also consumes information and maybe trust them. How is there a way to go out from that like labyrinth of information, like slowly decreasing trust in media, and at the same time increasing another type of information from the people in power to create those contra narratives, and at the same time your investigations in your own country has haven't the political cost that they should have for people in power that you have investigated. They have the political cost that they have to have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think that we already saw this in the United States when Trump came to the power. So, and we analyze how Americans media in the United States, they deal it with a new narrative that the President Trump imposed in the country. The lesson that I get from that is local news. They really goes to local news. The United States, the media, the American media made that. And I think that for us, this is a really thing that we can do, because we are national, I don't know, but we are a national media, independent national media, but Cuestion Publica try to make alliances with local media outlets, really small ones, in the specific regions where things are not gonna, where these political families control the territory. And that rapes journalists, local investigative journalists, that they are really doing the job. They don't have the reach, they don't have the resources, they don't have the privilege that we have in Bogota, in the capital, right? So we make alliances with them and we help them with really tough investigations, and we publish together. And I think this is a way to really avoid, because the national power, yes, is in the center. Colombia is a very centric country. Everything is happening in Bogota. But if we can to bring power to the local ones, that could be a strategy.
Thank you, Claudia.
En el caso de Ecuador, el costo político fue tal que el presidente tuvo que llamar elecciones anticipadas. Y más de 12 personas fueron procesadas, están siendo investigadas, pero en el sistema de justicia es donde tú ves que no ha pasado mayor cosa en la investigación. Por ejemplo, nunca se vinculó al expresidente Guillermo Lasso. Si se suponía que su cuñado tenía influencias, era a través del gobierno y a través del presidente. En ese caso no pasó nada.
About your second question about the political cost, Monica believed that it's evident in Ecuador, specifically speaking, it had a political cost for Guillermo Lasso's government, but it doesn't have a judiciary cost because he is not under investigations, officially speaking. Even if his brother-in-law is being investigated for trafficking influences, the justice system has not determined who was the influenced in the government.
Y a pesar de varios ministros ser destituidos, igual no incluyeron a todas las personas que nosotros investigamos, que nosotros expusimos. Aparte, el cuñado del expresidente Lasso estaba pidiendo medidas sustitutivas. Nos llegó información de fuentes, jueces que habían recibido sobornos para que le quiten el arresto domiciliario. Entonces eso logramos exponerlo y la justicia dijo, bueno, no vamos a proceder, pero porque logramos a través del periodismo de investigación también exponer.
And even in the case of the brother-in-law of former President Lasso, who is now in prison at home, he was looking for some substitutive. He was looking for being free.
Trying to bribe the judge to release him
free,
from home.
And he did bribe the judge. He intended to bribe the judges, and he was exposed by the press. And finally, it was avoid the decision, the ruling decision.
Yeah.
But I want to go about the public confidence you were talking of, and how the trust in media was constantly decreasing, because there is a statistic in Ecuador during the last 15 years, we have been every year worse, and every year less people trust in media, except by 2016. And when you look at the official data, you ask what did happen this year, and that was the year of a huge terremoto, earthquake, and it was a really tough moment in Ecuador, and I have been thinking about it for a while, because when people get no information, when they are one day in their home and they want to know if their father is okay, and they don't have cell phone lines, and they don't have electricity power, and they don't have
WhatsApp.
Anything. They don't have WhatsApp because everything was collapsing. They turn on the TV and they turn on the radio, and they want to hear the journalists to tell story and to tell what is happening in a place they are not seeing, and they recover the trust in media. So the real way to recover the trust of public is to be useful for them, because that was a year we were useful for people.
That's very interesting, just before you go, because when we had a previous discussion, I think last week, you mentioned exactly that you thought, Claudia, that to get the confidence of people, you should talk about problems that real people suffer, and then they could relate more to journalism.
Yes, and we identify citizens' pains. That's the main thing, because we are an investigative unit for the regular citizen. But because we are a native digital media outlet, we don't reach huge audiences, right? So we have influence in politicians, opinion leaders. We have our impact in another sphere, or for sophisticated citizens sometimes. But that what we really want to do is to reach this regular citizen, that one that is in the coffee maker, that one that is a taxi driver. That's the main thing for us. It's a difficult way. It's not easy for us. That's why I think technology can help us to diversify our formats, the way that we produce investigative journalism, and try to reach those audiences. But for now, it's like if your investigation regarding your your second question, of course we have an impact. Of course you do, because you are. Our investigation have been read by the president, by the ministers, by the Congress members. and they make decisions in real life, in the democratic system. And they are affected because we are revealing what they don't want that people knows. And even if we are in that sophisticated sphere, if there are alliances with the mainstream media, because we made alliances with mainstream media to broaden our investigations to another ways, in TV, radio, digital media, and that's we have to find ways to go to that people, to citizens, regular citizens.
Yes, it's a controversial issue in Brazil, and I think in all countries, because also we have some cases that corruption is treated as a show, or journalists that are treating all politics as corrupt. And in some cases, these journalists they have a high number of audience, and is a huge discussion in Brazil, and I think in many countries, how we can do our work in a better way. Doing investigative work, of course, using technology, talking with the young generation, but without these cases of show, because I think if you think in some ways this kind of journalism also contribute to polarization of our society. But it's a huge challenge because many times we know these journalists are using these tactics of show to have more audience, to have more money, and sometimes they need this. So it's a huge challenge. I think it's about the journalism itself, how we can cover the corruption in a better way.
Okay, good. We need to wrap up. I'll just comment on I think your question is the $1 million question that brings us here today.
Yeah.
How to break this trend of narrative and counter-narrative. And I'll go back to the Yale professor I mentioned at the beginning, Timothy Snyder. He said that the problem was when we stopped discussing facts and we started discussing opinions about facts, ideas about facts. So then we don't have a common ground to discuss what's going on in society. We just have opinions. And I think that's it. I would like to thank you very much for flying very far from home to be here with us today. Thank you, the IACC team, for organizing this, and thanking you for being here with us today. Thank you.